Welcome back to Straight Talk from the Homeland. I'm speaking to you here today from the banks of the Arpa River in Armenia, a place few Australians and New Zealanders have ever heard of. I'm going to speak directly to my Australian and New Zealand countrymen on this day, 24th of April, for a very good reason. It might shock you to know that Australia and New Zealand, in the form of the Anzac troops, were actually partly involved in a genocide. I say again, a genocide of the Armenian people.
Why do I say that? Well, on this day 107 years ago, during First World War, and only hours before the Anzac troops arrived at Gallipoli, the Turks decided that their Christian citizens, not just Armenians but also Assyrians and Greeks, deserved to be exterminated after, of course, centuries of racial discrimination following the Turkic invasions from Central Asia. That's right, Turks are not from Turkey originally, they were from Central Asia. And they invaded the lands of Anatolia, where the indigenous people, including Armenians, had been living for thousands of years. And because of the invasion, the Turks, under the cover of war, exterminated as many of their Christian citizens as they could. It's a process called Turkification, and it's denied by the Turks even today, because of course if they had to pay reparations and restore things like the Germans had to after the World War II Holocaust, then of course that would be a big problem for both Turkey and their Turkish friends, Azerbaijan. In some ways I'm a little bit ashamed of being an Australian and New Zealand citizen. I say this because although 32 nations, including even the German and Austrian allies of the then Ottoman Empire, France, Russia, the United States, Canada, many nations have recognised the horrors of what took place during the Armenian genocide, Australia and New Zealand meekly follow the footsteps of the UK in pandering to the Turks, who say, if you recognise, then we will not allow your senior political figures to come to Gallipoli. And of course I say to that they're all cowards. Our political leaders are cowards. We rail about human rights to the world. We talk about how people should recognise wrongdoings of the past, such as what happened against the Aboriginal people and the Maori people.
Can you imagine 75% of the Armenian people were murdered, just like ISIS murdered people in recent years? Burnings in churches, women slit from head to toe because they were carrying children. Children, women thrown from cliffs.
I've read hundreds of survivor testimonies. 75% of the Armenian people approximately were murdered in what we could now call Eastern Turkey. It left an entire civilization destroyed, and an ancient civilization that had been there for thousands of years. And yet we sit piously telling the world, China, genocide, many other places, but we cannot bring ourselves to say the word genocide when it comes to our relationship with the Turks. Indeed, there are statues of people who committed genocide, like Mustafa Kemal, or Ataturk as he's known, in Australia and New Zealand. Imagine a statue of Hitler in Australia and New Zealand being lauded by passers-by as if they'd done something incredible. It's not all bad. Australians and New Zealanders fought alongside Armenians to save what was left of the Armenian people, and that wasn't many, because more people were murdered than the entire population of New Zealand at the time. During the Battle of Baku in 1918, Australian and New Zealand soldiers even died to try and protect Armenian people. Many Armenians were captured during the Gallipoli campaign because, of course, they fought on the side of the Ottoman Empire. That was their nation, even though their nation was killing them. They told the stories to the Anzac troops. These stories, and also the eyewitness accounts of the Anzac soldiers themselves, were relayed to Australia and New Zealand. You can find numerous newspaper articles and many stories about what happened to the Armenian people. In fact, the author of the Genocide Convention, Raphael Lemkin, coined the term genocide in response to what he had researched when it came to the Convention for Genocide. So I ask my Australian and New Zealand compatriots, we are a kind people of humanity. Indeed, after the genocide, many Australians and New Zealanders went at great risk to their lives, and I'm talking many women at that time, to try and help the Armenian people with building of orphanages for all those poor children who were left without parents. We can be proud of that, but we cannot be proud of our indifference to the suffering of a people, and it is not just a historical thing. Today I stand here in Armenia, threatened by both Turkey and Azerbaijan, simply for existing as indigenous people. The genocide goes on today because you failed to recognize it, and it has to stop now. We demand Australia and New Zealand recognise the Armenian genocide and that of the Syrian and Greek people. I look forward to further discussions on Straight Talk from the Homeland.